Hey, Pin Dude here. Welcome back to my vintage pinball. Today's episode is going to be all about 3D printing things for the pinball workshop. As you know, a lot of the countries had some wacky weather this past week. Us here in New Jersey, we had near 0-degree temperatures, wind chills in the negative teens. So it was not very good weather for working in the pinball workshop doing pinball repairs. So I didn't get anything done on that Gottlieb Countdown playfield except for where we were in the last episode. Also in the last episode, we put together this 3D printer, which is the Creality Ender 3 that I got off banggood.com for $180. So the focus of this episode is going to be on this 3D printer. I've been printing with it for about 10 days or so now since the last video. I've learned a lot about 3D printing and I got it down pretty good. I've also printed a ton of stuff for the workshop and I'm going to show you all that stuff in this episode. We're also going to hang more pegboard in the pinball workshop, so that is all coming up in this episode. So let's get started. Alright, so if you saw the last video, you saw me build this Creality Ender 3 that I got off banggood.com for $180. You also saw me build and modify this $9 IKEA LAC end table that I have the 3D printer on, and I also made another one for my laser printer upstairs. So the printer here, it's running right now, as you can see. It's basically been running 24 hours a day almost every day since I did that video. I've just been printing stuff at the garage. If you're not familiar with 3D printing, the 3D prints, they take a pretty long time. You know, anywhere from 30 minutes for a really small part up to, I think the longest print that I've done so far is 12 hours. So basically, you know, once you get the machine set up and working properly, you just put the file on the SD card, plug it in, hit print, and then walk away, come back many hours later, get that print off, and get set up for the next print. And that's basically what I've been doing. But it hasn't been without issues. I did have issue pretty early on. I'd say within under 20 hours of printing, I had under extrusion problems. And if you Google Ender 3 under extrusion, you'll see it's a major, one of the major problems with this printer. But it is a very cheap and easy fix. And I'll show you that fix right now. Alright, so the under extrusion problem on this Ender 3 basically comes from this part right here, which is called the extruder. Basically it's a gear and a bearing, and the filament runs through that. The gear is actually what pulls the filament through the Bowden tube and down and pushes it through the hot nozzle and makes the print. So the original part is just made of plastic, and it wears a groove in the plastic where the filament runs through. It makes the whole egg shaped, and that causes a lot of drag as it tries to pull the filament through there, and that's the problem I had. So you see this red one here, this one's made of aluminum, so this is an upgraded part. I got this on Amazon for I think $16. You can actually get it cheaper. I've seen them as low as 10, maybe on eBay. But I needed it quick because you know, I was having all kinds of problems, and I should have bought this part when I bought the printer. I had read about it before I ordered the printer. I knew it was going to be a problem. I should have ordered it and just put this on in the first place. So if you are looking to get this Ender 3, definitely pick up the aluminum metal extruder. Like I said, it's anywhere from $10 to $17, so well worth it. Also, in the last video, I showed you to replace these Bowden tube quick connects. The ones that come with the Ender 3 are kind of weak, so definitely pick up a new one of those. I bought them as a set. It came with this blue tube and quite a long length of this blue tube. This is called the Bowden tube, and it does need to be changed from time to time. The end down at the hot end, due to the heat, will kind of get deformed and will also start to cause under extrusion as it gets resistance trying to pull the filament through. So that set of these quick connects in the Bowden tube, I think it was under $10, somewhere around like $7 or something on Amazon. And the only other modification that I showed in the last video was the springs that hold the bed up so you can adjust the bed for the height. I upgraded those to the stiffer springs. They were only like $4 or $5. And they've worked out good, although I must admit I'm still having some bed leveling problems with this. It doesn't seem to be holding the bed level as good as it should. So I need to make some more adjustments on that. Really, that is the only thing I need to kind of fix at this point, is to get the bed leveling consistent from print to print. I shouldn't have to re-level the bed after every print, but I've been having some problems with that. But other than that, everything else has been working great. All right, and there's only one more change that I've made since the last video. In the last video, I made this filament guide, so it kind of gives a better arc to the filament going into the extruder. You saw I made this, printed this little tool rack to keep all the tools. These are all the tools that come with this printer. So they're all organized, and all these tools you use every day that you're printing, so it's nice to have them right there. So the one addition I needed to make was the hole in the spool on the filament here is much bigger than the actual spool holder. So as the filament would turn, it kind of flops around on the spool holder and causes a lot of resistance as it tries to pull filament off the reel. So I printed these bushings that make the hole in the spool here the same size as the spool holder. So now it spins nice and super easy, and there's zero resistance as the extruder is pulling filament off of this. The other thing, as you see, I am using Amazon Basics PLA filament. It's basically the cheapest PLA that you will find. If you're familiar with me and my channel, you know that I use usually the cheapest equipment that I can get. So this Amazon Basics PLA filament runs anywhere from $17 to $20 depending on the color. I bought 3 colors. I'm using black, gray, and translucent. The black was right around $19, the gray was $17, and the translucent I think was $19. From what I've seen, it is the cheapest filament. The next step up would be Hatchbox, which is probably the most popular, cheaper PLA. And it's just a couple dollars more. It's usually $20, $21 a roll. But I've been really happy with the Amazon Basics. I don't have anything to compare it to because this is all I've ever used. But it's been working real good for me. I haven't had no issues using cheap filament. And the only other thing that I've purchased since the last video was this really awesome little LED lamp here that I got off Amazon. It was $20. It's fully adjustable lamp. Needed a lot of light over in this area of the game room here to set the 3D printer and be able to see what I'm doing when I'm making adjustments and stuff. So this was my best cheap option that I could find, and I'll have a link to that as well as all the other 3D printed parts that I've printed. I'll have links to all of this in the description down below. By the end of this video, I'm going to end up with a ton of links that I'm going to need to put in the description, but you'll be able to check out links for everything that I've bought and everything that I've printed for this Creality Ender 3 3D printer. All right, so now let's go out to the garage and let's hang some pegboard. All right, so I have this wall opposite my workbench. This is the door leading into the house. My toolbox is over here. So I have that little metal pegboard, which is pretty much useless, and it's just packed with a bunch of household stuff. So I went to Lowe's and I got some, this is 2 foot by 4 foot pieces of pegboard. And I'm going to cover this section of the wall with pegboard. That'll add more pegboard. So I bought 3 of these. 2 of these will be for here. I'll have to trim the upper one to go around the all the piping up there. But I'll get as much pegboard in that area as I can. Get rid of that metal pegboard. And then I bought 3 of these. So the extra one, I have a couple areas around the workshop that I can fill in pieces of pegboard. So that's what I'm going to do with the 3rd one. So to get started, I have to remove everything that's here. and then we can start putting the pegboard up. All right, so I got my first panel here mocked up. I cut out for the outlet just with a drywall saw. It doesn't need to be pretty. And now normally when you put this pegboard up on a sheetrock wall like this, you'd have to put wooden sleepers on the wall so that the pegboard is spaced out so that you can get your pegs in. But since I have a 3D printer, I found these on Thinkiverse. And what these are little pegboard spacers that somebody designed in CAD. So I printed these on the 3D printer. I printed them in gray because that's what I had in my printer at the time. So these are going to go behind the pegboard. You put your drywall screw through the center here, and that will space the pegboard perfectly off the wall so that you can get your hooks in. So we're just going to use a bunch of these on the pegboard. And how I'm going to do this is I've already marked where the studs are. So I'm going to take the pegboard spacer, figure out where it needs to go, and I'm going to hot glue it onto the back of the pegboard, and then I'll pre-drill the hole through it, and I'll do that for the whole panel, and then all I'll have to do is put the panel up and put the screws in, and we're all set. And the perfect thing about these is it's made to go between the pegs here, so kind of like right there, and then it won't block any of the peg holes. So unlike when you put sleepers on the wall, wherever that sleeper is, you can't use the holes to put hooks on. So this will make it so all the hooks are usable, and it's going to be really neat. So I printed off, I have a whole bunch here. I think I printed off 30 of these so that I can get these panels up, and then after this we're going to put some other pieces of pegboard in various places around the shop. So let me do this and then come back. All right, so I have my pegboard panel that's going to go right here. I have it turned around. We're looking at the back, the side that's going to be facing the wall. And you can see here are my 3D printed pegboard spacers that I used my hot glue gun to glue on. And then I just took a drill and pre-drilled the hole so that now when I lay this on, I'll know exactly where to put my drywall screw. And I'm using 1 5/8 inch drywall screws. And we're just going to zip this into the wall. All right, so I got my second panel trimmed around the pipes and around my shelf up there. So I have maximum pegboard that I can get on this little area using basically 4x4 pegboard. So I just have to mark the studs on this, glue my 3D printed pegboard spacers in there, and then screw that in. All right, so I got the pegboards mounted, and I got some of my household stuff put over here. So now you can see I have quite a lot of pegboard space over here. Got the light switch back. Had to bring it out to the level of the pegboard to get that in. That looks good. So a lot more pegboard space that we added just by adding these 2 foot high by 4 foot panels. So 4x4, well, a little less than 4x4 because I have the notch around the pipes and stuff. And I also have my first 3D printed part up here. Let me zoom in on that. So these are neat little battery holders. This one's for AA's and this one's for AAA's. Prints in 2 halves, so 2 halves for each one, and then there's 2 pins that hold them to the pegboard. You load the batteries up top here, and then they'll wrap around the bottom here, and then you can pull them out when you need the batteries. So pretty neat little 3D printable file. All the files of the stuff I'm going to show you that I printed I will have down in the description below, and all these STL files came from Thinkiverse. So there'll be some great things that I'll be showing you that I've already printed, and I have plans to print a ton more stuff for not only the pegboard but other accessories that maybe bolt to the wall and stuff. There's all kinds of things on Thinkiverse, and then once I get up the courage to learn some of the CAD software, I'll design some stuff by myself, for myself, that we'll use around the pinball workshop in various episodes to come. So you'll see the question come up a lot, you know, can I 3D print replacement parts for my pinball machine? I'm probably not the right person to answer that question, but I would think the way a 3D printer prints, you know, printed in layers, and then the layers kind of melt together, I wouldn't think the parts would be strong enough for, you know, a steel ball impacting that particular 3D printed part time after time. I would think the part would break. Even if you printed it in a stronger material like PETG or a slightly more flexible material like ABS. But I mean, you could try it. You know, it's not the reason that I bought the 3D printer. I bought the 3D printer for printing storage for pinball parts and pegboard accessories for pinball tools and other accessories around the shop. That's the reason that I wanted to get a 3D printer. If you're into homebrewing a game, you're building your own pinball machine, or you're retheming a pinball machine, I would think a 3D printer would be great for that, for making parts, prototyping parts, printing a part, testing it on the playfield, making tweaks to it. 3D printer would be awesome for that. So I think there's plenty of places in the pinball restoration hobby where a 3D printer would be great for. It's really up to you and what you want to do with it. Like I said, for $180 for this Ender 3 printer that I'm doing, it doesn't cost a lot of money to get into the 3D printing hobby, and I think there's a great crossover with the 3D printer and the pinball hobby. Alright, so let me show you some of the things that I've already printed and installed on my pegboard. And links to all of these files that I found on Thingiverse will be down below, so you'll be able to check out these files. And if you have a 3D printer, be able to print some of these things for yourself. Alright, so one of the really early things I printed was this Exacto knife holder. I saw this on Thingiverse and thought it was really awesome. So how most of these pegboard things work, here's another one that I printed. The hooks are part of the 3D print. So you kind of hook it into the hole and then bring it down. So this hooks in, and then this peg kind of holds everything in place. And it works real good. The other design would be to print it flat, and then the people have like kind of a rivet that goes into the pegboard hole to hold it. So some of these accessories have both systems. Both systems seem to work fine. And even though I'm using a cheap PLA filament, which is kind of a brittle, kind of a hard, brittle material, it seems to be plenty sturdy enough, and I've had no fear of breaking a peg or something trying to get these in. So this is really nice. It's nice to have an Exacto knife ready to go. You know, normally I have my Exacto knife in a little bin like this, and you know, when I go to use it, I got to take the cap off. And then every time I go to put it away and I put the cap on, I'm afraid I'm going to cut myself. So this is real nice. It just sits in there with no cap on it. You know, the cap is part of the pegboard accessory, and it's always ready to go. Now the one downside is I have like, this is like, has a cushy kind of cover on the Exacto knife. This one doesn't fit in the holder properly. So once I learn the CAD software, I'll go in and resize this so that it fits some of my other Exacto knives that I have. But just as a basic design that's on Thingiverse, it's really neat, and I highly recommend, if you have pegboard in your workshop, to print that one. And I also printed this neat little Exacto blade holder. It's just a little block with slots in it. Actually, it says Exacto on the front. And this is nice. It's a nice way to keep your blades stored on the workbench, so they're always right there and easily accessible. Normally when I need to change a blade on my Exacto, I gotta go digging through a drawer to find the blades and then pick one out of the box, and you know, this way they're always right here on the workbench. Nice, quick, easy change. Alright, so I have a bunch of these little storage bins that have pegboard clips on them. You'll see, I'll put the link to the Thingiverse file. There's all different sizes of these, and I'll show you the sizes as I printed pretty much all of them. And these are just great for storing, you know, your pencils and pens, and I got my chip puller here. And here's another neat one. This is a Sharpie holder. I don't know if you can see it because I didn't actually paint it in, but it has embossed right in it, says Sharpie's standard silver fine tip. If you wanted to get creative, you could paint that so it stands out. But you know, I have here's my 2 black Sharpies and my silver Sharpie and my fine Sharpie. Real nice little thing there. And then this is a screwdriver holder. It's a funnel shape, so it'll accept all kinds of different screwdrivers. I happen to just have my pick in here, but you know, you could put small screwdrivers in there, but then you could even put bigger screwdrivers in there, and then even your really big screwdrivers fit in there perfect. So because of that funnel design on it, it will accept any size screwdriver, and that's a pretty small print. Doesn't take long to print, so you could print off a whole bunch of these and put all your screwdrivers in there. And I might end up doing that. I might end up replacing some of my metal pegboard accessories with these, because I really like the way they look and they have a nice clean look. I printed these on, this is the Amazon Basics gray. I really like the gray. It's a nice clean look. Of course, it'll probably get greasy from touching it and stuff, so maybe black would have been the better choice, but I happen to like the gray. Alright, so here I have a 6-position holder for precision screwdrivers. Really nice file, again, from ThinkVerse. And here I have my, these are the Harbor Freight precision screwdrivers. But this will hold any precision screwdriver, because just like the screwdriver funnel, the holder has a cone shape to it. So it doesn't really matter what design is on the handle here, any of them will fit in there. So that's a real nice little screwdriver holder there. Here's another one of those bins. This is a slightly larger one. The other one that I just showed you was a 2-inch wide by 3-inch deep. This is 3-inch deep by 3 inches wide. And here I just have my extra meter for my multimeter, my alligator clips. Nice place to store them. And then here's another smaller, even smaller bin, 1 inch by 1 inch, I believe it is. And I have my highlighter here, which I use to, when I print out my repair guides, either from pinrepair.com or from the PinWiki, I like to highlight the important parts of whatever I'm doing before I do it, so that I can quickly scan the document and know exactly where I need to look. All right, so here I printed out just a simple pegboard accessory 1/4 inch hex bit holder. There's plenty of options on ThinkVerse for these. I picked this one because it holds quite a lot of bits, and it was a simple print, so it prints pretty quick. And I'm going to print a few of these because I have a ton of different hex bits and sockets that use the 1/4 inch bit attachment. I just haven't dug through all my drawers to find everything. So I'll put a couple more of these throughout the pegboards here. But they're real nice, and it's nice and deep, so it holds the bit nicely. Yet they're not tight, so it's not hard to get the bits in and out. So it's a real nice file there. So this is a real simple, quick print. It's just a little bracket that holds my dial caliper. So it's just a little pegboard accessory. It's got a little slot in it, so your caliper slides in there. And now I don't have to dig through my drawer to find my dial caliper and then open the case and get the dial caliper out. The dial caliper's always right here. And as I mentioned, dial caliper, always use it when replacing screws. Measure the old screw, and then you know to go to your drawers and you know exactly what size screw you need, or if you need to order a new screw, you know exactly what size screw to order. Alright, so here's another nice little pegboard accessory that I 3D printed. It's a hanger for test leads. So it's got the pegboard pegs on the back, so you put that on your pegboard. It's got slits in it with a little bit of a lip. So you take your alligator test leads and put them in there. The lip will allow it to not slide out. And then you hang this on your pegboard, and your test leads are always right there, easily accessible. Currently my test leads are in a drawer, and it's like a rat's nest. Anytime I needed to get one of these test leads, it takes me like 5 minutes to untangle the darn things to get one. Alright, so the other thing I'm going to be printing a ton of is storage bins for electrical components and other pinball parts. These particular ones, these first two here that I printed are for electrical parts. This tiny one is specifically made for resistors, which is great because currently my resistors are in these plastic bags just all stacked in a drawer. So when I need a resistor, I gotta open the drawer and then pick through all the bags until I find the resistor I want. So now I'll be able to put little labels on this and put my resistors in here. It is sized perfectly for the length of the resistors when you buy them. And as you can see, it'll hold quite a lot. You know, I can pack a ton more resistors into that bin, put a little label on it, and you know, I can print multiples of these. I expect that I have quite a few resistors. I expect I'll need to print 2 of these, and then I'll hot glue them together and then put them up on my shelf with my other bins. And then this bin is bigger. I'm also going to use this for like transistors and other various pinball electrical parts that I use, pin connectors and stuff like that. And this is a real neat file. It's fully customizable, as you can print it with drawers with no dividers. You can print it with drawers with 2 dividers or 4 dividers. So I did 1 with no divider, 2 with 2 dividers, and then 2 with 4 dividers. And it's a real neat little bin. Took a while to print, but you know, as you start to up your size of your 3D print, it's going to take a long time to print, but that's no big deal. So I expect to print quite a few more of these. I already have a lot of bins on the wall, but I never have enough bins. I mean, you know, as you know, if you work on a lot of pinball machines, you accumulate a lot of spare parts and spare electrical parts and, you know, coil sleeves and rubbers and everything else. And it's nice to have a lot of these kind of bins. And now instead of going to the store and buying one that might work for me, I can kind of customize one to work exactly the way I need it to work. So here's my current bin system, all pinball parts. Up here, nuts and screws and stuff like that. All kinds of replacement pinball parts here, mostly electrical parts in here. Some electrical parts in here too. All my rubbers are over here. And as you see on top, I just have a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit in my bins. So now I'll be able to 3D print my own bins and get all this crap on top here organized. Add my electrical bins that I just showed you up here, and really get this nice and organized and labeled so that everything is easy to find when you need it. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to clean off this little workbench I have here, and I'm going to cut up a pegboard and add a pegboard behind here so that we can hang more stuff on it and some other pegboard accessories that we're also going to 3D print on this pegboard. So let me get this all cleared off and we'll get to work getting this pegboard up. Alright, got my little bench all cleared off here, and I've already measured and cut my pegboard panel here. Fits in, I notched it around my bins here. And also I didn't have a stud where the pegboard ended, so I put some wall anchors in there and I pre-drilled all the holes. So now I just got to take my 3D printed pegboard spacers and hot glue them onto the back of the board, and then I'll be ready to screw this board up. Alright, so there we go. Now we have a nice little pegboard here that we can use for various things. And I'm already printing up a couple things for it now. Let me show you what they are after I get this all cleaned up. Alright, so I'm printing these little boxes now. And these boxes were designed to go on the pegboard. They have holes so you can use little plastic, well, 3D printed plastic rivet pins that are going to attach it to the pegboard. So they're not real deep, so there's not a lot of, so they don't get real top heavy and want to pull off the board. But the drawer is a nice size, real deep. And this is the wide version, and I'm also printing the narrower version. So there'll be another one of these, and we'll just print a bunch of these and put them on the pegboard up here under my bins. So we'll be able to put these under my bins here and have even more bin storage. We'll probably just do one row of these, and then we'll be able to hang some little tools that I use when I use this workbench. So it'll work out real good. All right, so that'll do it for this episode. Kind of a workshop update using the Creality Ender 3 3D printer to print some shop accessories and storage solutions for the Pinball Workshop. Hope you learned something about 3D printing. If you're interested in 3D printer, go out and spend that $180 and get that Ender 3 and start playing around with it. I think you will very much enjoy it. Also, make sure to search around on Thinkiverse. There's all kinds of stuff that you can 3D print on there. Definitely worth checking that out. So hopefully next episode we will be back to working on that Gottlieb Countdown playfield. We need to get that up on the rotisserie and start fixing some of the issues with it and getting the rest of it torn down so that we can tumble everything and restore all the mechanisms and stuff like that. So that'll do it. As I said, all the links to everything you saw in this video will be down below in the description. Check me out on Facebook, My Vintage Pinball, starring Pin Dude. Give this video a like. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit subscribe. We're only 25 subscriptions away from 1,000 subscriptions, so I'm pretty excited to be getting near that 1,000 mark. I want to thank everybody that subscribes to my channel. And if you have any friends that don't know about my channel and are interested in pinball restoration and repair, be sure to, you know, show them my little video site here. So that'll do it. I am Pin Dude. This is My Vintage Pinball, and I will see you next time.